So, I think it's safe to say we're getting to know each other. So some of you may already know this, but in my free time, I love to read. I'm pretty non-discriminatory about what genres I read, so if you have a recommendation, chances are I'll either have read it already or will be excited to read it. But one of my favorite genres has always been dystopian, futuristic novels. Admittedly, these books are often disturbing and violent, but I think what draws me to them is the pure humanity of the characters. With life as we know it stripped away, who do we become? What does it mean to be human? In the last few years, I read an older dystopian book called The Parable of the Sower by Octavia E. Butler. It was published in the early 90s. And in this novel, Butler imagines a world torn apart by disasters, both natural and man-made. In particular, uncontrollable fires in California. The story is meant to take place in the far distant future of 2025. To be honest, I'm beginning to question my love of these novels, especially ones like this, so eerily in line with our experience in the first few weeks of this new year. You'll forgive me for saying it has been a hellish start to 2025. Watching the news has been terrifying enough from across the country, but became all the more real for me when I checked in with my best friend, whose family home was in the Pacific Palisades. Their home, it has now been confirmed, has been completely destroyed. I have seen some really terrible things in my life. I've walked through concentration camps and Holocaust museums with teens, had to explain that to our teenagers. I've visited slums in Mumbai, learned about what led to them and what the next steps are. And I've seen the aftermath of terror in Israel and the West Bank with my own eyes. But seeing the picture of my friend's home with a burned out car in the driveway and a front stairway leading to absolutely nothing, it's among the worst things I've seen. Not because it's any worse than any of those other things, but because it's personal, because it's my friend. I'm sure all of us here have some connection, whether it's through your family or your friends. We all know people, or we know people who know people. And those people are either evacuated or living in terror of potential evacuation as firefighters desperately struggle to get these fires under control. Throughout the past week, sitting helplessly on the East Coast, I've been stuck on this question, and maybe you've been wondering about it too. What do we do when there is nothing we can do? A therapist once reminded me, when I mentioned my high level of stress and busyness in my life, that we're called human beings, not human doings. But in the face of such tragedy, it can feel nearly impossible to just sit and be and watch and do nothing. It's true that while the fires are still blazing and the heroic emergency responders are doing their crucial work, there's little any of us can do. Opportunities are emerging to donate money to organizations and individuals, and that money is and will be really needed. And as more becomes clear about the most effective places to donate, we'll share that information widely. But for me, far more than the urge to donate, I feel the urge to reach out, to make sure that those affected know that we're thinking of them. Maybe you feel the same way. This instinct comes from the most genuine and caring place in our souls. And yet, I'm going to offer a word of caution in how we reach out and what exactly we say to people who are suffering. It may sound a little counterintuitive because all we want to do is help, but time and again, I've heard from my own loved ones that genuine, well-meaning, good people say things that cause unintended harm. When one of my best friends was 22 years old, her mom died after a long battle with cancer. And with the best of intentions, someone came up to her at Shiva and said, "I'm so sorry. At least she's in a better place." You all made the right noise. When we don't know what to say that might be of comfort, but we are desperate to offer comfort, sometimes we say the wrong thing, like this. Because of course her mom wasn't in a better place. The better place would be here, on earth, not sick with her family. The same thing happens amidst all of these tragedies, and it's happening now. People have been reaching out to my friend who lost his family home, and with the very best of intentions are saying things that can make someone feel more isolated and more alone. The impact of our words is far more important than the intention we had when we said them. And that's really hard to know, that the impact of our words is actually far more important than the intention we had when we said them. I saw an excellent resource circling social media this week written by Melissa Urban, which read, 4 things not to say to someone who has been impacted by a fire or natural disaster. So I offer this as a guide to help us help in an actually helpful way. Things not to say. 1, at least nobody was hurt. This may seem like a kind or an obvious statement, but the loss of possessions can still cause deep grief and pain, especially possessions that can't be replaced, family heirlooms and pictures and memories. Suggesting that someone look on the bright side dismisses that pain and might shame someone for feeling it. Thing 2, at least you have insurance. Again, it is a bright side argument, but with the added bonus of turning away from the human experience and turning it into a business conversation. 3, well, my mom had a fire in her garage once. In comparing experiences, you may be trying to say, I understand, but it's not a competition, and we shouldn't compare any one person's loss or pain to another's. Thing 4, I know how you feel. I get it. Clearly, we want our friends and family to know we're here for them, and we don't want them to feel alone. But even if you went through the exact same thing, you don't know how someone else is feeling, and we shouldn't pretend to. While these guidelines are important, they don't answer the question you're probably now wondering, which is, if that's what I don't say, what do I say? Unfortunately, there is no one right answer for that question. It takes a lot of hard work to say the right thing, because it's really about meeting people where they are right now. And that may change. The right thing for one person may not be the right thing for another. We can't help others by thinking about what we would want, were we in their position. We are not in their position. It's about discovering what that other person really needs. Maybe it's a phone call, or a text message, or a distracting joke. Maybe it's a shoulder to cry on. Maybe it's the offer of a couch to sleep on, or sending an extra sweatshirt, or meal trains, or DoorDash gift cards. Maybe it's none of those things. The hard work is in allowing space to listen deeply to one another's pain, and responding based on what we hear, which takes time and patience and strength. Of course, fires aren't the only natural disaster we've seen in recent memory. Hurricanes and floods and droughts and tornadoes and mudslides and earthquakes, and the list goes on. All of these seem to have been growing in number and in force. And there are many who see these as completely out of our control or something beyond our understanding. Even on insurance policies, there are designations for what happens in case of an act of God. I'll tell you something. My theology does not include a God who sends disaster down upon humanity. My God is not present in the fires. My God is present in the firefighters. My God is not in the buildings that were burned down, but in the people who will build them back up. This week, we will finish a book of Torah. And each time we do, we say 3 words: Chazak, Chazak, V'nit Chazek. To me, in these 3 words are the echo of Jewish resiliency that has carried us through the generations. Chazak, Chazak, V'nit Chazek. Be strong, and we will strengthen one another. And that is always what we do. Even when it seems like there's nothing to do. We reach inward to find our own strength, and we reach out to share it with others. Chazak, Chazak, V'nit Chazek. Armed with ears ready to listen, hearts open to hold the pain of others, and the courage to envision a better future, we will be ready to help. We will reach deep for our own strength, and we will all be strengthened. And we say together, Amen.